I want to bring in Misty Marris, trial attorney and legal analyst. Misty, good to have you here. First of all, are you surprised we don't have a verdict yet?
I thought we would have a verdict earlier today. The trial went so fast and much quicker than the Jennifer Crumbley case. But I will say the jurors have chosen to deliberate beyond the 4:30 p.m. deadline where they would normally go home and pick it up tomorrow morning. That leads me to believe that they're pretty close, and maybe we'll get a verdict tonight.
All right. Prosecutors had said that James was on trial not for what his son did, but for what he did and didn't do, notably secure the 9mm gun he had just bought for his son.
Absolutely. That's the primary argument of the prosecution, that this gun was accessible to Ethan. He was able to access the gun and ultimately bring it into the school. And so that access is primarily part of the prosecution's case. Now, on the defense side, they say there were no laws relating to storage, that he wasn't required to keep a trigger lock on the gun. And so the mere fact that it was not stored in a safe or locked up is not enough to fulfill that standard of gross negligence.
Yeah, except if you have a troubled son who you've just bought a gun for. You know, it's interesting, Misty, because Crumbley's lawyer told jurors there was no evidence that James knew his son was a danger to anyone. But when the news hit that there was a school shooting, James immediately called 911 and said he thought it was his son who was the shooter. Most parents are calling 911 to find out if their child was a victim.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the uphill battle for the defense on that point. They have to show that James's aha moment, where he puts all the pieces together, happens after, that it wasn't foreseeable before this terrible act occurred. That is a really, really challenging road to hoe. And that's because, like you said, most people on that jury who are parents are going to say they'd be more concerned about whether or not their child was okay than have a moment where they think, wow, was my son the shooter? Let me call 911.
It clearly shows that he knew his son was capable of it. He didn't immediately go to, oh, my God, has my child been shot? He immediately went to, oh, my God, did my child kill other children? The defense also said that, quote, James had no idea his son was having a hard time. How could that possibly be true? He was like, there were red lights and warning lights everywhere. This child was telling everybody and showing in every way possible that he was not okay.
Yeah, the defense made the argument that James was not on certain text messages between Ethan and a friend where he was saying that he was seeking help from his parents. And James said he was a good kid. He never got into trouble. I had no idea he had this violent propensity. But Elizabeth, I think there's one thing that really undercuts that, and it's the drawing. Even if you can believe that prior to that time, James didn't realize how the depths of his child's mental health had declined. That drawing, that day, knowing that there was a gun in the house, that's how I think we are going to see a guilty verdict. Now, deliberations have gone on for quite some time. So the jurors are obviously grappling with the facts, which is better for the defense. But ultimately, I don't think they're going to be able to overcome that hurdle.
Yeah, we're showing right now what Ethan drew on his math worksheet the morning of the school shooting, in which he drew all these very disturbing drawings, including the 9mm gun that his father had just bought for him a few days earlier and had failed to secure because it was in Ethan's backpack while he was drawing the drawing and the blood. In the meantime, prosecutors called 15 witnesses in this trial. Defense called just one. It was James's sister, and James, unlike his wife Jennifer, did not take the stand in his own defense. Was that smart or a mistake?
I think they were looking at the diagnostic of Jennifer's trial and saw the way it went and maybe make the determination that James should not take the stand, that it might not help him. And I do think in Jennifer's trial it was necessary for her to explain that relationship between her and her son because of those text messages. Here the defense said, let's focus on what the prosecution did not show. And so strategically, they had to make that game time decision. As far as his sister's testimony, the defense was trying to show that his sister had contact with Ethan and James, that she'd seen Ethan about 4 months before and didn't see any issues. but the prosecution really tore that apart on cross, identifying that James and his sister didn't really speak that often, and that 4 months, well, this decline in his mental health happened in those days after, the dog died, his grandmother died, his friend was no longer around. So it really didn't move the needle from the defense perspective.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.